Sitting alone in the dim glow of his beautiful apartment, Barron Trump stared at the untouched cup of coffee on the marble counter. The horizon of New York strained out before him in its glittering beauty, yet the tension on his face was not eased and did little to ease the tension he felt. He breathed in and out sharply, his two hands clapped together. Something weighed heavily on his mind, a problem he hadn't spoken to anyone about. It wasn't about politics or the never-ending scrutiny that came with his last name. It was something more personal, something he wasn't ready to face. In such an emotional feeling in the silence of his thoughts, he decided he needed to get out. He just needed a different environment. Maybe a chill out in a quiet restaurant would clear his mind. He didn't have a specific restaurant in mind, but strolled down the street and found one. It was a beautiful restaurant, not too far from his apartment, but he never paid attention to it before. Eager to finally have some quiet, Barron walked right toward the entrance. He didn't know what was about to unfold, an experience he never would have imagined having. Barron stood right at the entrance of Hunyard Restaurant for about a minute in what looked like a moment of indecisiveness. Hunyard Restaurant is an upscale restaurant known for its dedication to providing customers with ideal and preferred service. The restaurant was built by Mr. Stevenson, who labored so well with his hard-earned money to put out something that would help the people around and bring him more money in return. He lost his parents to a ghastly car accident at the tender age of 2 years on their way to pick him up from school. He worked as a garbage collector for many years before he decided to build Hunyard Restaurant. The restaurant stands out for its generally acceptable, safe environment and decent services. At the entrance of this restaurant, Barron stood and looked up momentarily, took a step forward, and stopped again. He looked at his casual top and shorts, shook his head as if to say, "I'm not well dressed to be in this kind of restaurant." However, he shrugged and walked into the restaurant. Barron was welcomed into the restaurant with a mixed aroma of various edibles and the ambiance of the environment, which made him a bit relaxed. He walked right to the left corner of the restaurant and sat down alone. At that moment, he had forgotten about his worries as he was captivated by those coming in and going out of the restaurant. Hunyard Restaurant's main lounge could accommodate about 3,000 diners, with 3 VIP dining halls that could seat about 20 VIPs each. On this day, Barron, who wanted to enjoy the freedom of not being watched or given any special treatment, dressed so casually that he could never be suspected as the son of the president. He didn't even look for a special place to sit. Instead, he chose an empty seat in the general lounge of the restaurant. He quickly forgot his heavy burden and enjoyed the various exchange of jokes and interrelationship among commoners. He ordered for fried cheese served with marinara sauce and pink lemonade and began to enjoy the snack and drink. In a short while, he exhausted the order. He apparently came into the restaurant hungry, yet he had no appetite. He could not enjoy a meal at home because of his troubled heart. However, seeing everyone dining and drinking, with the mixed aroma of various edibles, he gained an appetite and felt like eating and drinking like other customers in the restaurant. He placed another order, this time for tortilla chips topped with cheese, jalapenos, and salsa. Barron ate and was satisfied. He had spent about an hour in Hunyard Restaurant and was already thinking of slipping out quietly, not because he did anything wrong. He didn't want too many eyes on him to avoid being recognized as the president. Rising from his chair halfway, he heard his father's name on the TV at a corner in the restaurant. He turned back and sat down for a while to hear what the news correspondent had to say about Donald Trump. The news said President Donald Trump alerted America's farmers on Monday about coming U.S. tariffs on external products, telling them to get ready to sell their goods domestically. The president said, "To the great farmers of the United States, get ready to start making a lot of agricultural products to be sold inside the United States. Tariffs will go on an external product on the 2nd of April 2025. Have fun," the news correspondent announced. Having heard that, as he was still sitting down, he looked directly at the entrance of the restaurant to probably see if he could move. It's not the right time, he thought. His attention was now focused at the entrance. He watched the different characteristics of various people who came and went out in their manners. However, Barron Trump was particularly fascinated by Mr. Albert, who came in whistling a musical tune he seemed to be listening to from his phone with an earpiece. He smiled as he watched the man whose unstable whistling got too loud as he moved to the middle of the restaurant. He perhaps was under an influence. At a point, the diners were distracted as their attention was drawn to Mr. Albert's unusual whistling. Intoxicated, he moved toward Barron's direction. In a few seconds, the man pulled a chair beside Barron without seeking permission and sat down, removing his earpiece in quietness. After sitting down, he was seen conversing with Barron as if they were friends. Albert said hi to the young boy, who stared keenly as if to continue a conversation they had hanging. Barron's expressions changed as he knew connecting himself with Albert, who had already violated the restaurant rules, would implicate him. He became afraid, feeling that the eyes fixed on Albert may expose his overly casual dressing and he may possibly be sent out of the restaurant. Barron became restless and wondered why this was happening to him. This time, he was so trapped in it that he dared not move. He wasn't with any bodyguard, nor did anyone know he was the president's son. No one would even believe him if he attempted explaining. He felt like asking Albert to move somewhere else to avoid bringing attention to him. At that point, Barron wished he had quietly sneaked out of the restaurant after his meal before this trial began. He began to ask himself many questions, including, how can I escape this situation? What would be the end of this? Can I achieve my goal? In those thoughts, Barron saw the restaurant manager afar watching Albert. More fear gripped him. He felt like running out of the restaurant immediately, but that would only make people suspect him as a bad person. Among the code of conduct in Hunyard Restaurant were dress code violations, which included no shorts, flip-flops, or hats, overly casual or inappropriate attire, and being excessively loud, yelling, or causing a scene. Unfortunately, 2 violations were detected: Barron's casual dressing and Mr. Albert's excessively loud noise. The management of the Hunyard Restaurant observed and kept an eye on Mr. Albert, who came into the restaurant whistling and announcing his entrance with misconduct. They decided to check him out for violating the restaurant rules. He was monitored and marked. A few minutes after he sat down, Mr. Stevenson, the manager, a middle-aged man dressed neatly, came out of his office and walked slowly toward the man and Barron, his leather shoes clicking steadily on the floor. Barron raised his head and saw the manager coming toward him. His heart raced, and he wished someone would wake him from the bad dream. If only I turned back while I was still at the entrance of the restaurant, none of this would be happening, Barron thought. Unfortunately, it was too late now. In his storms of mental burden, he had put on shorts that did not meet the restaurant's dress code. This was the same reason he contemplated earlier before entering the restaurant. He had concluded that it would be a quick one for him, and he wouldn't do anything that would attract the attention of the management, nor would he mingle with anyone or any situation that could cause him any havoc. Now, thanks to Mr. Albert, he was in a mess. As the manager approached Barron's direction specifically to send Albert out, he was yet to spot the shorts Barron was putting on. However, in his bewilderment, Barron stood up, worsening his case, as his casual dress was fully exposed. While standing, thoughts ran through his mind. Mum has warned me to be careful. Dad has told me not to humiliate the Trump's family. They've told me to stay away from trouble, he thought with regret. Great fear was in his eyes as he stood there looking directly at Mr. Stevenson, who had seen him and had stopped in surprise. For a while, he screened Barron from head to toe. That was the beginning of an incident that shook the quiet atmosphere of the restaurant and shocked everyone. Every gaze in the restaurant was now on Barron and the manager. No one could predict the next line of action. The manager slowly shifted his gaze of surprise from Barron to Albert, and swiftly back to Barron again. His expression suggested he was unsure if they belonged to the same group. Should I address them together, one after the other? He thought. Mr. Stevenson suddenly walked to them and stopped abruptly. His right hand went into his pocket. Barron's facial expression toughened as he prepared for a defense. His thought suggested that the last thing he would be forced to do is to reveal his identity. His hands also stylishly went into his pockets. Seeing the toughness on Barron's face, Mr. Stevenson relaxed his tension and politely said to them, "Your behavior and dressing violate this restaurant's policies." He pointed to the rules on the wall, dress code, no disruptive behavior, and the like. "Kindly leave the restaurant," he said to them. Albert quietly moved rightward behind the manager and walked out of the restaurant in the gaze of the diners. While all attention was on the outgoing whistler, Barron quickly apologized to the manager, asking him to please return to his office and allow him to go out on his own in a few minutes, when all eyes would no longer be on him. The manager nodded, raising his 10 fingers for Barron to see, and said in 10 minutes, indicating that Barron should leave the restaurant in 10 minutes. The manager left for his office, and Barron sat down in temporary relief. The tension in the restaurant dropped as diners continued to dine in the normalcy of the restaurant environment. After 5 minutes, Barron noticed 2 men who looked like hired bouncers or security staff. They took different positions in the restaurant, perhaps waiting for the expiration of 10 minutes to force him out. The clock kept ticking. Barron sighted them, but was taken aback. Their presence had further raised an unknown alarm in the restaurant. If he moved now, everyone would see him. If he stayed, he would be embarrassed. The tickling of the clock was like a countdown to a timed bomb. 2 more minutes left, and Barron was about to experience what he least expected, a show of indignation between the president's son and the manager of Hunyard Restaurant. After exactly 10 minutes, the security agents moved toward Barron, who was in tense perplexity and still sitting on his seat. They were moving from divergent ends toward him. He arose and looked at his left and right erratically. Unfortunately, they got to him and asked him to leave, but he waited in vain. All he wanted to avoid came upon him. The security man on his left, pointing to the exit door, repeated, "Let's go." Any further delay might have forced him out, so Barron moved slowly toward the exit door. All eyes were on him as the security agents walked him out in a bowed head. Barron looked defeated. At this time, some diners sought to see who this lawbreaker was. As Barron stepped out of the restaurant, the diners and those who followed the scenario out of the restaurant laughed, thinking that was the end of it. However, something happened. Barron stood outside for a while, brushing the dust off his casual wear. Someone shouted his name, Barron, and he immediately raised his right hand, signaling the caller to stop. Standing at the door were the security agents that kicked him out of the restaurant, watching. They were curious to know Barron's next move. He drew out his phone from his pocket, made a single call, and within a few minutes, a convoy of black SUVs stopped in front of the restaurant. As the doors opened, a team of men in brittle suits emerged, each carrying silver trays covered with fine linen. The manager came out to watch the spectacles. Barron walked to the manager very closely and whispered to him that he was Barron, the son of President Donald Trump. The manager was seen smiling while he gave Barron a handshake in apology. More people gathered, live streaming the scene on the internet. Barron's crew from the SUVs marched past the stunned doormen and the hired bouncers into the restaurant and began setting up an extravagant feast on every table. Rich Wagyu beef, burgers, and sushi rolls. Caviar creme fraiche, beluga, ossetra, or sevruga, champagne cocktails, hand-carved, crystal-clear ice cubes that melted more slowly, and more were all delivered with martial precision. All these were delivered for free for whoever cares to eat and drink. No one expected these to be the outcome of being kicked out of Hunyard Restaurant. Mr. Stevenson, the restaurant manager, watched in disbelief as guests abandoned their meals to indulge in the unexpected royal spree. It was an ultra-luxurious dining experience that day. The internet was filled with stories about this royal dining opportunity, and more people trooped in. Reporters arrived, cameras flashing, capturing the moment as the stunned staff stood frozen. This scenario changed Hunyard Restaurant forever as it became more popular as the chosen restaurant for this extravaganza. Lots of poor, homeless, and less privileged people soon gathered outside the restaurant, expecting their share of this real but dramatic benevolence from Barron Trump. Of course, this momentous show instilled in the hearts of those who were present sparks of compassion that far exceeded any arguments or bias. "This is unbelievable," said one of the poor folks who gathered outside the restaurant. Barron Trump was baffled and surprised when he came out of the restaurant and saw multitudes of poor, less privileged, and the homeless folks who came with their children. He entered one of the SUVs and wept briefly, as he was emotionally touched at the sight of innocent homeless children who wore tattered clothes in the cold of New York, looking hungry. He quickly asked for extra delivery of food, drinks, and clothing this time around, as some of those who gathered outside were unsuitably covered. More men and women came in to serve the people. An aged man who could hardly stand beckoned to one of Barron Trump's men who was serving them to come closer. The aged man asked him, "Why are you doing this good to us?" He replied, "We are Barron Trump's men. He made all these provisions." "Who is Barron Trump?" the aged man asked. "He is the president's son. Look at him up there, pointing at Barron." "Tell him I want to talk to him," the old man pleaded. Barron's serviceman quickly told him an aged man wanted to speak to him. All the old man told Barron was, "Thank you. May God bless you. You have given me life." Barron said, "Amen," and asked the old man what he could do for him. The old man said, "Please take care of my grandson," touching the little boy who sat beside him for about 10 years. "Where do you live?" Barron asked. "I have no house," he replied. "I will take you and your grandson. Wait here for me," Barron added. He told one of his aides to remind him to attend to the aged man and his grandson at the end of the activity. Barron Trump's deeds of generosity spread well beyond the confines of a restaurant incident. It encouraged other individuals to rise and help the needy. As a result, many charity organizations testified within the short period of this incident that they received large donations, and volunteers signed up to work with them as Barron's show of love spread. Barron Trump, through this single, surprising, extravagant kindness, motivated millions of people across the world to be of good. As a result of Barron Trump's acts, people shared stories of their random acts of kindness on social media, which has sparked a new measure. Folks spoke of how they bought food for the homeless and helped elderly persons carry heavy objects. Some said, "Barron's small act made me realize I could do something to help those around me." These are just a few of the accompanying harvests of Barron Trump's grand act of compassion. Beneficiaries of scholarships and other forms of care were attended to, contacts were exchanged, and everyone was satisfied at the end of the sparked fire that kept spreading through the world. It was such an extraordinary day of undeniable positive impacts. Barron waved his hands at several beneficiaries, smiling with undisputable fulfillment. His great burden was lifted, and his dream was not truncated, as everything worked according to plan. Though he intended to leave quietly, the crowd applauded him with shouts of appreciation and clapping hands with joy on their faces. This shows the extent to which a show of kindness can change people's lives. Showing kindness doesn't always need to be a grand movement like Barron Trump's. It can be the little things like the unexpected kindness that brightens someone's day. A timely compliment can mean so much, whether it's about someone's appearance, work, or personality. Deeds like writing a thoughtful note or card for someone, be it a coworker, friend, or even a stranger, just to let them know they're appreciated. You can even hold the door open for someone. As simple as it is, it makes people feel valued. You can pay for the person behind you in line at a coffee shop. It can surprisingly and completely shift their day for the better. Check in on someone, even if it's just a message asking how they are doing. It can make someone feel seen and cared for, especially when they might be going through tough times. Offer to help elderly people run an errand, offer a ride, or lend an extra hand at work. Stepping in when someone is overwhelmed is always appreciated. Celebrate achievements, big or small, and take a moment to acknowledge the accomplishments of others. Barron Trump's story went far across the continents through the live streaming by volunteers. It sparked a wave of actions worldwide. Many thanks and praise were given to Barron for proving the diners wrong with unusual acts of love. After being kicked out of the restaurant, the popular expectation would be to plan a revenge or do something negative to prove how brave you are. However, contrary to that, Barron Trump showed the world how mature he was, despite being a young man. "This is a great leadership skill. Watch that guy, he is a future president," said an online Facebook comment concerning Barron. Words like, "Barron Trump is a born leader," "Barron is an unusual being," "Barron Trump is a world influencer," "Barron Trump is a practical mentor," "Barron is a practical motivator," were spoken of him on various internet handles. Major news outlets like CNN, BBC, the New York Times, and many other local news groups reported the phenomenal spectacle. Various weekly television discussions on the display of Barron's compassion were scheduled. Topics like who raised Barron Trump, which school he attended, and his close associates were discussed on popular television shows. Thanks to Barron Trump for his extraordinary display of an uncommon pace setting that the world could follow. America is proud of him. Though young, he did not misrepresent things. He exemplified might and maturity. His parents were proud of who their son was becoming. The fire of that movement never went down. The world at large emulates these acts. May children of great leaders be challenged by this simple restaurant episode that affected the philosophy of most notable minds. May they share and spread love, kindness, and respect worldwide. Through such happenings, the world will become a better place without prejudice and offense. As such, there would be an unbreakable circle of honesty, charity, tolerance, and forbearance. What are your thoughts about Barron Trump's reaction to being kicked out of Hunyard Restaurant? Let us know in the comments. If this video was inspiring, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Also, turn on the notification bell to be notified of new videos. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen. See you in the next one.